Good afternoon, Patriots. Hello and welcome to the Matrixxx Groove Show. Here we are. Oh my gosh, what day is it? Is it Friday? It's 6:30. Wow, we're getting to the end of June. And let me first bring in my partner in justice, Shady Groove. Shady.
Hello, sir. Welcome to Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everyone.
It's
Matrixxx,
Tuesday? I don't even know what day it is. Oh my gosh.
I'm shot out of the cannon today, my friend. This is an amazing time to be alive. We have so much going on out there in the world, and with today a very, very special guest.
Yes. We've got Scott Kesterson, Bards of War, Bards FM. So honored. Let's just bring him right in. Scott, welcome to the Matrixxx Groove Show. Thank you for coming.
Hey guys, thank you very much for having me on. It's just an honor.
You know why I thought it was Fridays? Because we're actually taking a little time off, and this is our last show for a little while.
The week.
Scott, Shady's going to be heading down to Mount Rushmore. The DNC just had to delete a tweet that said that it was going to be a white supremacist rally. I don't know if you saw that, but
No, there's. Hey guys, do you mind? Can we start with a prayer?
In fact, yes, Scott. Let's start with a prayer. Go ahead, sir. Yes.
Okay, Heavenly Father, thank you for this time to bring us together to share truth and to open hearts and minds to the true light of what sits before us. We ask that today you'll guide us, give us strength, protection, and to bring as many patriots here to open their eyes to share the truth with all of the Americans around. We are building unity, Lord, and we continue to strive for that with the strength and faith and our faith in you. And we say these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen, Scott. Wow, beautifully said. Thank you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your prayer group that you have? How do you want to, roll this at first? I mean, we want to know all about you. There might be people here that know who is Scott Kesterson, and you're here with Jeff Peterson, so it's kind of odd. Kesterson and Peterson.
Well, I tell you, let's start with. We'll start first with your first question. I think it's a great one, and that is the bended knee group. So, it's really pretty neat because a year and a half ago, really, or about a year ago, January. So I guess that was a year and a half ago. I just literally was in prayer one morning and woke up and I just like, wow, the words bended knee. And I'm like, I've just got to work with this. And by the end of the day, it was just like one of these flurries that happened. I was like, I just need to start a prayer group on Twitter off of my account. And that grew like wildfire. And it has been tied peripherally to the entire Patriot and Q movement. And it has grown. It started out being once a week, every Wednesday at 1:11. People have asked me why 1:11, and truly, it's Ephesians 1:11 is where you have to read that. And it has grown to 27 countries around the globe. And from that, there's a special group out there called the Special Operations Prayer Team, which has built to 4 teams that move around, disrupt narratives, and use faith as the principle to doing that. And if you notice, General Flynn even has a bended knee in his header. So it's really a powerful part of this movement, which is faith and keeping our focus really on the center point where we should be doing everything is to build from faith and our strength in God as we enlighten ourselves with knowledge and to march forward and to really destroy this evil cabal. I can get it real quick. Yep.
There you go.
Am I there?
You're there. It was me.
Okay.
So basically, Isaiah 6:8 on General Flynn's is new. And I was just getting kind of trolled by the guys on the boards. They DM'd me and saying, hey, the guys on 8kun want you to stop saying Q sent me. And I'm like, huh, why? I've just been saying Q sent us, or, if we're on the show, we'll say Q sent us or Q sent me. It's just, that's because I just started doing that. And, I walk around, when I went around and said, do you know who Q is? And people are like, yeah, Q sent me, So it's kind of grown. And just after that, he just put Isaiah 6:8 on General Flynn. And it says, if you want to read it for us.
Sure. And just for all of those out there, it's this ESV I'm reading. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. Powerful, powerful verse.
Right.
And I think every patriot needs to embrace that, because that message that General Flynn has out there is not just for him. And that's the thing to remember, is when he speaks as the people's general, he's also speaking what we need to be putting into our heart. He is such a powerful voice in this movement. I told Joe the other day, when he speaks, it's like we have an earthquake that happens underneath our feet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it really is like that, man. And just to to expound on that a little bit, like Q sent me, and everyone out there that feels this energy, you feel this moment, you feel this movement, and we're all working on thinking logically and individually, and this whole new paradigm of getting out of the chains off, breaking the chains off of us. And so whenever you say Q sent me, you're saying we're all, we're sending ourselves, guys. That's a big deal to understand. Like, we've each given a piece of ourselves to this movement, and no one is better or worse than any other, whether it's you talking to your friends, or you're on as the digital soldier on the internet, or you're talking to your local law enforcement, whatever it might be that you're doing, running for office. All of those different things combined become Q sent me. We're all motivated by this idea that we actually have the truth, and we have all this power in the truth, and bringing it forward and being a steward of it is an honor, not a job. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. If I can add to that, because I do a lot of research as well into the occult stuff, and people that follow my podcast know that I dig in. My term for the left is the Luciferian left.
Right.
And I kind of keep it there, because at the core of everything that they believe, they truly are Luciferian in their true nature. Everything that they do when they make a reference to God, it's not our God, it's theirs. It's Moloch, Baal, whoever else they want to call for the day. So the one thing that I think is so important as we embrace that statement you just made, which is so critical, is we're all, every bit of us, we're a piece of God. And God gives us, and this is my belief, is that God has given us each special talents, and it's hard to find. It's part of our life's journey to discover what those special talents are. But it's the fabric of that. And that's what's so amazing about the digital army, is that you see all these amazing talents erupt. Some people do podcasts, some people do sketches, some people do memes, some people make songs. And as we do this, we start to discover our native talents. And as we bring that together, that's the army. It's the invincible army, because it's hitting at all sides in so many different ways. And that's truly the calling for all of us right now. And why, again, Isaiah 6:8 is so powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing, because we have to actually do the action. We have to, here on this plane, if you will, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that's really critical. And so I'd like to, and this is an important discussion, I think, is people see on my Twitter sometimes that I'll challenge Q. And I do. And as I've said before, if I have a question on something, it's not that I disrespect Q. It's not that I ever disrespect President Trump. But as an independent thinker, you have to be willing to step out and ask some hard questions, and to be able to put some hard postulates out there. And that's not being dissentful, if you will, to Q or any of the movement. It's about the awakening. It's about being strong and independent. And that's when we go back to our founding fathers and we look at how this Constitution was drafted and how the Declaration of Independence was drafted. I would say that most people would shy away from those debates because they were harsh. And when you read those, these guys were debating with passion. Thomas Paine, Hamilton, and all these people arguing with deep, deep passion for this nation, and arguing for what they truly believe was the right path. And in the end, those impassioned debates didn't end up in them fighting each other. It ended up creating one of the greatest documents in the history of man, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And that's what we have to get back into us again. It's really getting that saltiness back in us to where we can passionately debate with one another, but not be pissed off and walked away and go beat up on somebody or feel like we can't talk to him again, right?
No, that's a perfect point to make there. And I think that's a lot of what is missing maybe in some of the younger generations right now, the young generations, believe it or not, are waking up really fast. But this in between generation that were kind of in the, I don't know, say 10 to 15-year-old range whenever 9/11 happened, their whole generation was severely changed. I saw less than maybe even a year ago where they were doing these studies and on the universities, and 75% of the kids polled said that check the box that said you should do what the government says you should do. So there's this comply mandate sort of entered into the program of what, I'm 46. I got a good amount of never trust authority in school, but there's a large portion of the population, and a lot of them are out there screaming and yelling in the streets right now, who were programmed by the schools without that question of authority. And I think that the Q movement and all of these anons, including yourself, coming to it and being questioning, we question what the president's saying, we question what Q is saying or what they're doing, but that just strengthens our resolve once we understand it, but we have to question it to get to the understanding.
I fully agree. And here's one of the things that I have this coming up in a podcast later today, and it'll be I did this series of 8 and it's episode 101 that I'll be discussing this, but it's President Trump is one man, and he has a task that is a task that is to reset the economy and to open up the opportunity for innovation and to re-energize the America. The point that we have to remember is there are some things that he has to do in order to get reelected. And one of those is, if your 401k goes tank and you don't have a job, the probability of getting reelected is pretty much 0. So there are some compromises that have to be made along the way, that the only thing that can prevent those from happening is the market demand. So my example, and I've used this many times, and it always gets the hair back on the back of people's necks standing up when I say, look, vaccines, for example, are moving forward, and people are like, President Trump will never allow that. No, he will allow that, because there is still a market demand for that. And by the way, a large percentage of your 401k investment on Wall Street is backed by biomedical.
Pharmaceuticals.
So, right. So you can't just say, no, there's not going to be a vaccine. What the burden and the onus of that is, will the people accept it? That's not his issue. That's our issue. And that's that market demand. So if they produce the vaccine and like, yeah, you're all going to get it, and people are like, no, I'm not taking it. I'm not doing it. Sorry. Then they developed a product and it falls flat, and that's just their problem, right? And instead, if people go to therapeutics and say, that's all I want, then a whole new industry erupts, an entirely new industry. And he's transformed the economy, but he's opened the door for us to make a choice. So I want to bring a note to something that I don't think we spent enough focus on. And it was the proclamation of Law Day that was signed on April 29th, 2020.
It was huge.
It was huge. And what's really important is, for me, it's so critical, and I've used this a couple times in podcasts, is paragraph 4, the first sentence. And it says, we know that our republic can continue to shine as a beacon of liberty only if Americans diligently defend our Constitution and ensure that its limits are strongly enforced. That doesn't say President Trump. It doesn't say Q. It says us, we the people, right?
Yes, it does.
So
yeah, that's beautiful. I've just pulled it up on screen for everybody as well.
Awesome. It's such a powerful, that document was, and it's interesting because that document was signed right around the time that most everybody noticed a change with President Trump.
It was signed on May Day.
Right. That's huge, by the way, just before May Day, but it turned May Day from a communist holiday to the proclamation of Law Day, which is rule of law, which is what we're based on. We're not based on that, the socialist nonsense. We're based on the rule of law.
And it's a big occult day as well. Now we just took it over. We the people just took over May Day.
We just took it over. That's awesome. There's nothing better than taking those sorts of terrain, right, when you're in the war.
Absolutely.
There's an interesting timing to this, though, I find, you probably have tracked it, is there was a number of videos that came out saying President Trump has given up. He's been taken over by FEMA. The cabal has won. They've got him somehow, and they tag all these key little phrases that he says, and try to say that he said goodbye, and it's all nonsense.
You
Because
know,
this, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I remember that. It's ridiculous. And, even fast forward to today, apparently on TikTok, they're saying that he's passed away and he overdosed on HCQ.
Why not? I mean, this is
You just can't make it up, can you?
no, you can't. It's just constantly when you accept the fact that anything that comes out of the media or the left is a lie, then you kind of start your day right. You're like, oh, okay. For those of you that feel sometimes like you need to have a drink of something to get through it, just remember the left's lying. And then when you start at that point, everything gets easier. And it's like, that's better than anything else you can do, even better than a cup of coffee sometimes. But, the thing that reason I go back to this Proclamation of Law Day is that it happened at that moment. And when you read the Proclamation of Law Day, this is really when you look at what's happened. In President Trump for 3 years was telling, if you include his campaign, it was 4 years telling you media is the enemy of the people, fake news. Media is the enemy of the people, fake news. Okay. So the Patriots and others are out here going, yes, we hate the media. Then we hit January. And in January, we end up with a handful of videos that somehow magically managed to slip out of China's digital wall that the media then goes hyper crazy on and builds this pandemic fear, which then we watched the entire globe implode in a way of saying, okay, I give up. I'm just going to hand you my full liberty, and I'll willingly sequester myself into my home, put on a mask, and I'll be afraid. And there wasn't one revolt to the media's protest to this pandemic thing. And I'm not saying there weren't dissenting voices, because I was one, and I'm sure you guys were too. It's just that the point is that the majority of people just willingly complied with the media narrative when the whole premise for 4 years was the media is lying to you. They're fake.
Yep.
So there comes a point in the presidency, in my opinion, and this is how I interpret what happens there with the Proclamation of Law Day. And it ties in with Q, because sometimes you can't show them. Sometimes you can't tell them, you have to show them. It is the point that you get to a critical point where you have to just say, okay, we can't move them. They have to move themselves. They have to make a decision. And I really think that the Proclamation of Law Day represents that critical moment where it's like, okay, people, I love you. I've fought for you. I'm going to take those slings and arrows for you. But you now have to have the courage to stand up and fight as well. I can't pull you out of this fire. You just walked off the cliff when I've been telling you not to, and you did it. So I'm going to keep removing regulation. I'm going to keep doing everything I can, but you now have to fight, because I can't control this. And that's my personal opinion.
Oh man, I think you're completely over the target. And then we just take that a little further and look at. I actually did a show that day on Law Day because I felt the significance that I felt of it on the lounge that night. But look at what's happened since then. Now we're seeing the truth of them, guys. And this is what I think is so beautiful about the Q movement and the time that it's taken to do this. I know everybody out there is so frustrated and so impatient about the duration of this, but in all reality, we have to be so logical to understand that we had to get them to literally come out on TV and in the media and in the print and say, defund the police. Take away your law and order. Take away the money. De Blasio is right now trying to take $1 billion out of New York City's police finances there. And so, really people are seeing that the establishment is willing to sacrifice your security, and they're also willing to stand up there and say, you don't have the right to have a firearm to protect yourself. I mean, both of these arguments are coming out of the same mouths, and the hypocrisy is really not lost on middle America whenever they see it, but they have to see it. They have to see that actually occur. And now this huge push has been since the president mandated that and took this offensive move towards them. And now, we've watched for the last month or more the way the media is literally acting as the enemy of the people of the United States of America.
There's no question about that. And so this leads into a discussion we were having before the show. And I think it's an important one for people to really understand. And I've alluded to it in a few Twitter posts, but the military doesn't have the authorities given to them by the Constitution to fight the information war that has been designed against us. And this is a very important principle to understand. This, in one hand, it deals a little bit with the Hatch Act, which prevents the military from being involved in politics. But there's also a very fine line between protecting from an information war and violating First Amendment rights. The left knows this extremely well. So does China. China's principle of unrestricted warfare, the document that I think it came out in the 70s. And it was a principle of using a state-run apparatus that was a collusion of private and public entities to assault the United States on an asymmetric approach. So that means that you were taking economics, lawfare, public institutions, investing in universities, buying corporations and gaining influence, stealing IP, whatever it took to try to degrade the United States over years, buying off politicians. There is no restriction to what they would have to do to try to win. And so when you sit back and you look at the military's role, which is the defense of the United States, and the principal means that they're doing is they're using our own economics, our own politics, our own media against us, where is that line that the military is supposed to jump in and just drop the hammer and go, okay, we got to get rid of them because it's legal by our own rules? And worse yet, the politicians that they bought off are making it even more legal, right? So I say this because it isn't to send a chill down everybody to say that you don't have the military with you. You do, but they can't fight a fight that we aren't leading.
Or that we're not willing to fight ourselves, you know?
Exactly. And this is exactly it. And so if we see an invading force coming into our border, trust me, the military is there like yesterday, and it ain't going to be pretty for those trying to invade. But we're talking about an infiltration, not an invasion. That's what Q keeps saying. And that infiltration is so important for people to understand. They should see it now, how deep it is. The cabal's depth of penetration isn't that it has the numbers, it has the placement. That's the key thing. They have taken over the strategic nodes of information, of influence, of politics. And that's what we have to start unseating through the local action in politics, taking over your school board again, taking over your counties, getting your sheriff back, if he isn't, back to a constitutional sheriff, getting your county commissions back on board, and taking aggressive stance, like with this nonsense of COVID and masks. When they say wear a mask, you just say, no, I'm not going to do it. And you have the strength to defy, knowing that you have other patriots with you and that you are fighting every action like that you're doing. You're fighting for the preservation of the Constitution and what our founding fathers gave us to defend.
Yes, that's absolutely well said.
Yep.
And we're all coming to a conversation, and we're standing together. And the strength isn't, a lot of people want to point to the unity as strength, and I like to take a little bit of a side-handed approach to that, because the reality is a unified front is so very strong. But as other people see that, like you have to kind of be outside to want to be inside. And we've created this almost like a pop culture environment around Q necessarily, which triggers the whole left. It triggers everybody else. The clowns know what's going on, but we've created this environment of I don't want to say a petri dish, but almost like an embryonic environment of freedom again in the hearts. Like we all took it for granted, Scott. Like everybody was walking around and going to Walmart, and I've been looking at Walmart as Chinese direct for 25 years and trying to tell people to avoid, these different things in your society. But now we're actually having a countrywide conversation about the importance of China, the importance of your pharmaceuticals being made in America. Like all of these conversations that we're currently having were nowhere on the radar 3 years ago. It's like if I was out here talking about alternative medicines to people, everybody's rolling their eyes at me. And now you have center-minded people that are willing to say, hey, if the media is agreeing with the CDC, that's agreeing with the WHO, that's agreeing with the UN, and they're all wrong, then what else are they wrong about? And starting to reconsider some of the stuff that you're taking, or some of the doctor's recommendations. I mean, you know, like we're supposed to question everything and learn for ourselves and not be told. And we've kind of became a country of people who are willing to sit back and be told what to do.
I fully agree. You know, if you look at, I love to use McDonald's in a lot of examples when I talk to people, because it's the drive-through culture, which is fast and easy, right? The definition of a hamburger at McDonald's is some sort of a, I don't know what that thing, I don't know what the meat is, but anyway, I mean, if you have a real hamburger and you go to McDonald's, you kind of look, you're like, what is this? But McDonald's defines the hamburger. So the reason I bring this up is that's what the cabal has done to our world, right? They've turned us into fast, easy, and a single definition, like everything is vanilla in one fashion or another. And it's vanilla with artificial flavoring, not real. When you start to discover what is out here and you start to awaken, just exactly as you're saying, all of these things no longer are A plus B. I mean, there's options, there's challenges. You have to think, you have to start considering new things. And what I think one of the biggest eye openers in this whole COVID thing, which had to be shown to us, was how deeply corrupt the medical system was. Man, that is, even for myself. And now my first awakening was about 1987. I had an amazing professor in college. I was getting my degree in history, and my focus was on social revolution and change. And he was an East Asianist. His name was Dr. Leonard Adolph. He's since passed away, very close friend of mine. Some of the greatest advice he's ever given me, he said, whatever you do, never join a group, think free. That was just brilliant. I've lived by that. So my first essay, by the way, when I got it, and I thought I was pretty top tier guy when I wrote it, you know, I'm like, oh, I know my stuff. He gave me a B+, and he just wrote on the front of it, learn how to write. Pretty, oh, no. I mean, it was brutal, right? So I went and sat in his office and I said, okay, look, you just like totally ripped my gut out. And he's like, Scott, you got good ideas, but the English language is the most powerful language ever developed by man. And you have to learn how to master it if you want to be powerful. And I said, okay, I'm listening. So and he took me through the next few years in university. And one of the things he did is he said, I'm going to tell you people to take courses from. You aren't going to like many of them, but you need to understand how they think so that you can understand how to argue. And that is brilliant, right? So that's really how my whole university experience was. And so I'm one of these guys that literally has read everything Karl Marx has written. I've read Das Kapital, all 3 volumes. I read all of his early works.
Yeah.
I've
studied it too, man. And, you know, and you can see all of it in our society, like, you know, being woven into our society over the last 2 decades or longer.
And this is the truth. And the problem is that, like, Marx is a good example, because Marx is, to me, he runs both sides of the fence, to be honest with you. I don't come out outrightly and go, oh, he's a horrible communist. I mean, the dude dissected the cabal's mechanisms of making money. I mean, if you read Das Kapital, you walk away going, holy cow, this was a brilliant scheme of enslaving people that he understood back in the 1800s, right? And it's only gotten worse. In fact, I would point this out, I've done some lectures, I point this out. It's like, I find it interesting that the left studies Marx, who understood how to pilfer and make money, and the left is gained a lot of access to senior corporate positions, and the right rejects him. And, well, the left's ruling the world. I mean, that's kind of, I don't mean to be flippant, but I mean, that's kind of, if you look at that, it's like they got what he gave them.
Well, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of pretty much like the art of war type of same scenario. I mean, you know, they're seizing the moment. You know, Marx teaches to seize the moment and to not allow anything to go without being preyed upon. So, I mean, you know, that's a perfect example, I think.
Right, and it is that, and the left is is very pernicious, and this is so I don't know where we started all this. We kind of rabbit hole this around, but that's okay. The thing that I bring into the left and the free thinking piece is the left does not have the numbers to defeat us in the fall, but the left doesn't need to win in the fall. They need to energize for the fall, and they need to and they will double down, triple down, quadruple down in your local communities, because they play the long game. And that's evident when you look at how long they've been studying, like, Marx and all their infighting that they have. But the left is funny about this because they can hate each other, except they'll hate something more than they hate themselves, and they'll come together to hate that one thing more, right?
Yeah, they like eat themselves.
Man, they will eat themselves alive. But then when you say, like, they'll be eating themselves alive, and then you say President Trump, and they'll all stand together and go, oh, okay.
Orange man bad.
Exactly. So I say that because what is important to understand is do not take them for granted. If you're rating their success or failure based on Joe Biden's rally attendance, you're missing it. Their rallies are out burning cities down right now. That's what they're doing. When it comes time to vote, they will energize. So don't be complacent. These people have an ideology which is atheist at its core. They have a absolute belief that there is a system out there that will take care of them. And this goes back to that Luciferian model, that they believe in the nanny state, right? And this is where we've kind of defined the world right now between those that wear masks and those that don't. Those that willingly walk around driving their car, I love that one, with a mask on, right? Okay, I've just got to deviate because this is one of the greatest moments.
Clowns wear masks.
Oh, it's true. And I'll tell you, I saw this the other day for Father's Day. My parents and I went out to breakfast, and we're sitting at a nice place up by the river, and I'm looking outside on the patio, and there's this family sitting together. And so you've got the mother and father, and you've got the daughter, and looks like daughter and son-in-law is what I'm assuming, right? And now keep this in mind. The mother and father have got to be in their 60s. And according to our statistics, they're the most susceptible to this fake pandemic, right? And the kids are probably in their mid-20s, right? And who's wearing the mask? It's the kids. But this is the best part. So they're wearing their mask, talking to each other as they're trying to have a normal conversation until the food comes. And then the mask gets taken away. And I don't know if it's like I try to get into the logic of it. It's like, which there isn't any, we know that. But it's like, what suddenly protected you from the virus now that the food is here? Is it like the steam coming off the food that's supposed to be killing this virus that now you're not wearing a mask, but you're feeding yourself? That's this cognitive dissonance that is so prevalent.
It's a good example though.
And it's everywhere. And this is what we have to fight. And this is the core of the information war, is to reveal the little pieces. When I worked with special operations in Afghanistan, I worked with what I considered, there's two generals that I consider to be our greatest generals of all time. One is General Mike Flynn, unquestionably one of our best generals we've ever had and ever will have. And the other one is little known. Are you serious, really?
Yep, new cue.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at that in just a second. So the other one is General Scott Miller, who is currently running forces in Afghanistan. It's the Lone Warrior. Check that out. Huh. And it's and I gave one of the last briefings to General Miller before he left his tour in country, and it was about a program I was standing up for information warfare, and I remember it, and we had quite an interesting, it was a long brief. It was about an hour-long briefing. And at the end, he liked what I presented, and he pushed back in his chair, and he looked at me, and he said, "Scott, I'm going to give you some advice." And he said, "Small victories." He said, "Don't go for the strategic win. You need small victories, and you add those up. And when you get enough of those, you win the strategic fight." That is so important for us right now. So important, because patriots need to understand that it isn't about taking down some big Hollywood celebrity name on Twitter. It's about that small account that you're going to go meme out there, and you're going to drop memes on and truth bombs on. Maybe they have 50 people, maybe they have 500 people, maybe a few of those accounts have 10,000. You're going to catch them in a thread, you're going to hit them hard, but you're going to shake them up. And it's the small victories. Every single one of those little victories you make creates a momentum. And that momentum, as you build that, that's how we topple the castle, right?
Oh man, that was very, very well said, and exactly true. For all of us to see it, and for all of us to do it, for all of us to understand it, has been a blessing. I mean, we were so all over the map, man. Everybody in their own little safe spaces. No matter who we were, we were having a hard time to communicate. And so we're seeing this. I mean, to me, it looks like a whole new world manifesting in front of us, where we have true discourse in the public square, Scott. I mean, really, if we can achieve, you were mentioning earlier about the founders being so passionate. And the reason that they were so passionate was because of their life, right? We all think about freedom, and we all correlate that to, the country that we live in or whatever. But to me personally, what I see when I look back at that era is I see that for folks like you and Matrixxx and I and all the Anons out there, like, we have this idea of freedom in our head, and we can't shut up. Like, we're really programmed to be loud about it and to talk about it. And so, freedom, liberty, America to us equals our lives, because otherwise we would be in the mud somewhere fighting some monarchy that was attempting to control us. So there is this really large conversation that I can see even the world having right now, with all of the information that has come out through the Q movement and unity. I was on a program the other night, and she was like, what is in your mind the greatest thing, or the most important thing, or the biggest message of Q? And I was like, it's very simple. It's where we go one, we go all. If we all go together, then none of them can make it. But if we stay in these splintered sects of society, then we're giving them more power.
I couldn't agree more. There is a coming point when we'll have to kind of let the dust settle and make some hard choices about what we want and where we want to go. And I think what we're learning here is that there is a unity, and there's also some uniqueness in how we each see the world. But it doesn't have to be hostile. I don't know what that looks like in the future. What I know right now is we're definitely seeing two different groups in the world, and for all of us trying to awaken, we're embraced with that challenge of trying to have that discourse to make a better world for everybody. On the other side, what we can see very clearly is that their concept of, quote, awakening is to give themselves to an authority of man. And that's where it becomes very biblical to me.
Yes,
right
it is.
at that juncture, right? Because that gets back to the very foundations of the creation of man. It even goes farther back into the book of Enoch and the fallen. And I talk about this a lot on some of my podcasts. And I'm starting to explore a whole new area, which I think is interesting too, which is frequencies. Because prayer at its core has always been part of faith. And it's not just a ritual, and it's not just a process. This is where it is something much greater than that. And we've seen Q post Ephesians 6:10-18, and in my opinion, there's much greater reason than just quoting us, probably one of the most quoted scriptures in the Bible. It has to do with frequencies, because as you pray, you elevate your frequency, you elevate your energy. You literally are creating a spiritual armor around yourself that keeps you away from this draw to be pulled into this negative torrent that's happening. And when we sit back and we look, kind of what has happened here too with the awakening is we're looking across the chasm now. What didn't used to be a chasm, but is now. We're looking out and we're seeing this craziness, and it's like, what's wrong with you people? I mean, seriously, like, you're gonna burn stuff to get stuff down? Where before that was so embedded within us that we would have a difficult time discerning them from who we are. Not anymore. When you're with the awakening on this camp and you look across, you're like, yeah, y'all are just not right. I'm sorry, you're just not right. And they literally don't look right to us, right? And it's like it was said in the letter by the Archbishop, it was the offspring of the woman versus the offspring of the serpent. And what we're witnessing is literally that metaphor, if you want. It could be more than that, we're witnessing an entirely different existence of people, a different spiritual frequency of those people out there, right?
Remember, in my opinion, we've got two different realities going, because their reality certainly is their reality, right? You've got the left reality thinking orange man bad, got to tear down statues, got to, burn things and get free education and blah, blah, blah. Then you've got us, that are kind of underneath the Trump supporters, that are a little bit more awakened than some of the Trump supporters, but the Trump supporters are awakened. So you've got two different realities. And what I see happening is those two realities are going to collide at one point, and truth is going to come out at the end. And that's why I believe people are going to have their awakenings at different moments in time. Something is, going to snap people out of it. We're seeing it already. I see people that are now saying, oh my gosh, I just walked away just now, right? But, I think we're going to see two realities. And to your point earlier, remember Albert Pike, 3 World Wars, they're going to unleash the atheists and the nihilists. I mean, and that's what we're seeing happening right now. It's and then
godless.
The godless. And then we realize that, these Antifas were actually trained by ISIS. It's just what we were seeing here is absolutely insane. But I think it needs to happen in order to show the people what to do and how to notice it. It's just I think we're in, like you said, biblical times right now, Scott.
We are, and I do say this as well, and this is in the biblical sense. I know a number of people that
Another new cue.
Really?
Yeah, we've got like clockwork.
This is good. All
So
right,
this
well,
this is a one like clockwork. This one is the new cue. We had 2 new cues now. Lone Warrior was not the new cue. There was one after that. Just FYI. But yeah, so I want to go into this. So finish your thought, and I want to just kind of go a different direction real quick. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and I guess what I'll kind of close with this is that we are at a point right now where spiritually we aren't going to get through this unless we're really solid in our faith. And it's because you can't take this whole weight of everything on yourself.
Yeah.
And when you start to embrace faith in its strength, and this is not proselytizing, this is just a principle of life. We need something with us to carry us through this very difficult world. We do have 2 colliding worlds right now. And it's very evident that one is, as the Archbishop said, what we could easily refer to is either as the children of light or the offspring of the woman, and the other is the children of darkness or the offspring of the serpent. That letter is probably one of the more significant historical documents we had in our time, because it's coming from an archbishop.
Oops, sorry. That's our cue.
Well, there we go.
There you go.
Delayed reaction.
Sorry.
Well, that was good. I actually was like ready to crawl into bunkers.
I know. And let's get into a little bit of that too when you're ready. I really want to learn more. But I also want to talk to you about some of the Q posts that happened and your letter from Flynn. So we got a lot to cover, guys.
All right, well, let's
dig
us in, man.
Stay with us. All right. So first of all, your letter from General Flynn was actually queued, if you will. And I want to get to that. And was this your first letter? How did that happen? And how did you, when did you decide to kind of make it public? Just curious. And if you would read it for us.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got to pull it up. So
I've got it on screen if you can see.
Oh, yeah, I think I can. Hang on just a second.
You got it.
Looking here.
If you're on the phone, it's like really small. I know.
I can.
Let me do this real quick. Where did I had to put it somewhere. Looking to see. Did you put it on the?
Yep.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I can read that. Let me just read the letter and then we'll talk about it. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, Scott. If the United States wants to survive the onslaught of socialism, if we are to continue to enjoy self-government, to secure God-given individual blessings of liberty of ourselves, of our families, then just accept that each has a moral obligation to participate in the political life of our country. The art and experience of self-governance requires active participation. Voting matters, but it is only a part-time engagement of the American citizenry and doesn't go far enough if we are to survive as a constitutional republic. I want to see more of our veteran and law enforcement communities become involved in the political life of America. We are a participatory experiment in governing. Without a greater commitment, we will continue our slide into the abyss of socialism. And we must not be intimidated by the smear campaigns that will most certainly come with greater and more active participation. We will only keep America if we dedicate ourselves to freedoms of victory over the socialist monster by our good citizens accepting greater responsibility. I'm not done. God bless, Mike.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Scott reads too, though, by the way.
Ooh.
so here's, let me roll back a little bit. I need to go, I'm going to give a little history here.
Yes, please.
So I was the first embedded citizen journalist in Afghanistan, and I went in 2006, and that carried me for till 2007. So I was there for about 15 months, and it was a very successful year. My motivation for going there, I'd actually, my whole life, I'd had a passion for photography. I had the educational basis to do good research, and I had gone a different path in my life. But I got to a point, and I had a small, very successful construction company in Portland, Oregon. And I just got to the point of like, this is not fulfilling me. And I took my passion and I mentored with a photojournalist that was a Pulitzer Prize winner. And we did it online. So it wasn't like an active mentorship, but I tuned up my skills. And then I reached out to my old National Guard unit and asking about an embed in December 2005. And this was the response I got. Now, remember, I asked about an embed. I said, I'm inquiring. And this was the response.
Like, I want to.
He's like, are you crazy?
Yeah, no, so this was it. It goes, well, Lieutenant Kesterson, so glad to hear from you. So the question is, do you want to go to Iraq or do you want to go to Afghanistan for a year? That was the question after my question, which is, I'd like to get it. And I paused for about 30 seconds and I went, I'm going to Afghanistan, done. And I literally shut my business down and put everything into that. Okay.
Wow.
And it was 15 months later, I ended up producing about 135 stories. I did about 35 video stories, I think, something like that. That number may be off. It's been a while. I won an Emmy for my work and was nominated for a Peabody in 1 year. And that went from 0 to 100 miles an hour.
This
right?
Emmy, that's the Bards of War movie, correct?
So the Emmy was from the footage, the combat footage in the Bards of War film currently out was what I won the Emmy for. They were for what were called media shorts, best photography.
Do you mind if we just watch the trailer real quick on that?
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
All right, here we go. This is the Bards of War movie trailer, guys. And this will help people understand, where you're going. So this is perfect, Scott. Here we go, guys.
Grenade! Nobody wants to watch the game. You want to be in the game. But at the same time, we know in this area, our turn is just around the corner.
I was a citizen journalist. I embedded for a year. The story I had come to tell was in the legacy of Ernie Pyle. It was never about the Taliban, nor to make some moral judgment on war. My story was about the soldiers, their experience, and what that looked like through their lens on events. In July of 2006, I was asked to cover Operation Mountain Thrust. The mission was to attack Taliban sanctuaries in key areas of Kandahar and Helmand provinces. These areas were a hotbed of insurgent activity and the center point for their opium production, finance, and terror operations. I was attached to Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, known as the Patricias.
If you're tired, it's better to be tired and winning a fight than at home getting the shit kicked out of you by people that want your way of life to end.
The events that unfolded over the next 10 days changed all of us. The core of it all is the word sacrifice. For the Patricias, this word was at the center of everything they were as Canadians and as warriors.
In any of the ticks I've been in, I would stay and fight until every last one of them was dead.
The lesson we all learned was clear. Fighting is everything.
Wow. I just got chills. I don't know about you, but get that, bardsofwarfilm.com. Download it. It's worth it. I remember when it first came out, that's how I learned of Bards of War, and I watched that movie, and I tell you guys, well worth it. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. Well worth your time. Scott.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. The key piece there was the motive. I never went there to be a journalist of what we call journalists today. I mean, there was a real pride at that moment of calling yourself a citizen journalist. Today, I think we will use digital soldier. I'd use backpack journalist as a couple other terms, because I think the concept of citizen journalist, unfortunately, thanks to CNN, really got run to the ground. But
you mean their fake footage of them getting an air raid on top of CNN in Atlanta?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, and just kind of like sitting every night and lying.
Right.
I mean, it's having on quote citizens to tell stories that are all paid crisis actors. That sort of thing.
Absolutely. And real quick, guys, for you guys out there, welcome. I really love you guys in chat. If you guys thought that trailer was very inspiring, just press 17, and please support Bards of War if you can. Scott Kesterson, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I just noticed. I don't know what Pickles is. I'm noticing on the scroll. It's bardsofwarfilm.com, just so you know.
Yep,
so.
I got the digital download. See that? There she corrected it. Thank you, Pickles.
Awesome. Thank you, Pickles.
Look at all the 17s now, Scott. Ready?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Right there. That's awesome. Okay. Loving it, guys. So Ernie Pyle is somebody in the legacy of journalism that I think we should all take time to read a little bit. And it's very heartfelt. And the reason I say this is he was such a human storyteller. When he went over, he was a writer. Now, he ended up dying in the Pacific. He started in the European theater. He ended up dying in the Pacific theater with the Marines in World War II.
Oh, wow.
They had so much respect for him that he was shot. He was killed in a machine gun ambush by the Japanese. The Marines laid there under fire for over 2 hours before they could crawl up and retrieve his body and bring him home as one of their own. That's how respected he was. Okay. And what was so unique about Ernie Pyle is it wasn't politics. And this is what's inspired me so much, who is this soldier back home? I want to know what he's fighting, but I also want to know who he is back home. And that was the stories he told. My focus has always been the soldier, and having been one, and then going back to tell their stories. And that was a huge honor to do that. From that period of time, the 15 months that I spent there, and the Canadian piece was unique because it was an opportunity. It was just there was a U.S. colonel, lieutenant colonel, that said, "Hey, there's an operation going on. I want you to get on it with us." And when I got there, these were using what we call embedded trainers. So there was 2 Americans that I was with. They were assigned to the Canadian group, and then as I was there, the Canadian group had already given me authorization through Colonel Ian Hope to be there with them. And so I just stayed with them. And it just happened to be one of those groups of guys that we melded with, and they got all the action. I mean, in 10 days. So that film that we were seeing covers about a 10-day span, but it was an unbelievable 10 days. I mean,
it felt probably like a month and a half.
It did actually. And it's like one of those things that
and seeing the very footage. Wow. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's at the end of the film. There's a brief little shot of me coming up and shutting off the camera. Okay. That is literally at the end of 10 days. And I don't think I can tell you, I'm glad that we don't have smell vision.
Hey, Scott, that way. Real quick. There's going to be a new cue, so if you hear a siren, you're just going to know.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and hit it.
I'm gonna avoid the siren. Here it is. Let me just read it because it kind of what's happening now. So I see what's happening, but I'd like to see you guys doing something about it already. We know all this. We are helpless to it all. So the question, Q, is: do you see what's happening? Fear not. We are not helpless. Enough must see. It is the only way. You are being presented with the gift of vision, ability to see clearly what they've hid from you for so long. Illumination. Their depiction, dark actions on full display. People are waking up in the masses. People are no longer blind. Do you think it's a coincidence they banned and prevented you from attending church, house of worship, anti-American, anti-God? One must only look to see. Have faith in humanity. Have faith in yourself. Let light guide you. Find peace through prayer. Biblical Q. Kind of sums up what we've been saying, isn't it, Scott?
Yep, pretty close.
So I just love Q posts during our show a lot. So Q team, thank you very much. We love you. And Scott, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I felt that this one, I get notifications very quicker than most.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just wanted to show you that real quick because that one hit me. I got chills. So back to you.
Well, no, it's incredible. I think that all of this is about faith at the end, right? I mean, I talk a lot about war, and I talk about war as being the greatest teacher. And that principle is being talked about right here in this post by Q. Okay. You cannot appreciate who you are, what we have, and the value of life until you've pushed it to the limit of almost losing it. Now, I'm not telling people to go out and like stand on the edge of a cliff or something and like test it, because that's
what
not
he
my right. But yeah, there's in the oh my goodness gracious, a little Lady Gaga comes in and we couldn't avoid it. Oh my goodness. So, but that's funny. The meat, who else does that? I did a whole piece on this, is the transhumanists. Have you guys done work on this?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And they do call it the meat thinkers. And I'm like, oh boy, I tell you, they are.
Good thing I was muted.
Oh. Oh,
okay,
man.
so continue. This is amazing conversation, Scott. Thank you.
So the Q post is so apropos, and I think it's a huge honor to see something like this appear in the show. It is truly, like we've said here, everybody's being able to see now what this is. When you're in conflict, the last scene in the movie is an ambush, and the lead up to this ambush, we had been fighting in Sangin, really bad territory, lots of Taliban. The British dropped a 2,000-pound bomb in on a perimeter of a village to knock out some Taliban, and they call up the Canadians and they go, this is so typical British. They go, we want you to go in and do the BDA, which is battle damage assessment, for us. and it's literally in the afternoon. And I'm not kidding you. All of us sat around and went, no way. This is not,
no.
Are you? And so they're like, yeah, you're going. So we drive in, we get out of the vehicles, and I'll never forget these moments. At this point, we've had a bunch of contact. We call TICs, troops in contact. And we sat and looked at each other. And the first thing we see are the old men and the women running out of the village. And I remember looking at the guys, and we all just shook our head and said, we are going to get hit. Okay, let's buckle down. And so this is one of these moments where you absolutely know you're going to get hit hard.
Oh my gosh.
And you just go, okay, this is my job. Now, everyone, so I'm clear, I'm a camera guy, but my job to me is no different than their job. And that's how I've always worked. I mean, my job is there, no matter what it takes to tell their story, like their job is no matter what it takes to defeat the enemy, period. So we go strolling down here, and I mean, literally, who has become a dear friend of mine. His name is Chuck. He's up in Edmonton, Canada. And he takes his squad down into the valley, and you'll hear it on the film. He just starts screaming, high right, high right, high right. And it was right then that the first RPG cracked right over my head. And the camera work there, I left it in because we literally didn't know where it was coming from, right? And so what proceeds there is it's suddenly amazing what happens, because you hit that, everybody gets it, you hit that sudden moment of like, whew, and then you focus. And everybody has their focus. And I say all this because digital warfare is no different. Okay. Comes a point when it's going to be tense. You got to hit hard and you're going to feel it, but you got to buckle down and focus on what your purpose is. Mine was a simple mantra that had been given to me, which was there's calm behind the lens. For a soldier, it's basically tactics of point, shoot, and shoot, move, and communicate. All right. And so you focus on your job, you focus on your skill, and you move. And I moved on. And this is where you start to see the depth of who we are. The precision, the commitment, the communication that is absolutely on nobody's mind. Is anybody going to die that day? And yet when you talk to Chuck, one of the guys later, it was Chuck, he was telling the story. He's like, dude, he said, we fell flat on those blades of grass, and I was asking myself, can I get even smaller to hide behind this blade of grass? Because there's just all of this fire broke out. And so the guys proceed to do the sweep and the counter ambush and defeat the enemy, quite frankly. But not without, this is another one of these great moments, not without a bit of humor. So in life, we have to have humor to keep us glued together. Yeah. So here we are in the middle of this firefight. And again, this scene is in the movie. And one thing that would happen, a lot of the work in Afghanistan was based on relationships. And the Canadians did a lot of this, of like going in, we're going to build a well for you and make your life better, that sort of thing. And so one of the guys, we're getting just firefights going everywhere. His name's Dave, and he kind of crops up on the rock, and he screams out, he goes, hey, we're just here to give you a well. And then he just rips his gunfire downrange, and somebody throws a grenade after that, but it's just this, you literally take a moment and you're laughing in the middle of death, is the best way I could say it, right?
That's interesting that you actually find yourself in that perspective in that moment.
And sometimes, laughter
goes away, is what you're saying.
Comforts us, it comforts us. It's, you notice, like, we have tragedies, right? And then there's jokes that come out of those tragedies. I think it's a way of coping as well.
Oh, it is. It absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's a great point. And let's take that even another step further. Like, whenever we were young, where was the truth? The truth was in the comedians, wasn't it? These guys were
like George Carlin. We thought it was funny, right, Shady? And you look back at him now, it's like, oh my God, it's not funny. It's the truth.
He's a great example.
Yeah,
man, Carlin's.
Yeah, these guys were like bringing cultural truths, and and you even like to focusing on the whole racial aspect of everything that we're looking at. We were all laughing at each other. If someone called me a white racist name, we thought it was funny. Like, there was all of this understanding that we're all flawed. No one's perfect. We can't do anything about what color we are. And, we might as well make fun of each other for our idiosyncrasies. And it was a brilliant time that we had there of growth. I felt like, of being able to grow up in that era of seeing the coming together of all of the different cultures here in America, only to befall us, the mid-late 90s and the initiation of the Clinton regime, moving into 9/11 and all of this division that has happened over the last 2 decades. But, we had a time here where that truth, that funniness, that reality was healing us, Scott. I mean, like, we were seeing a lot of healing in that era when we were younger.
The day after, the week after 9/11 there's the utopia type era that occurred in the United States. And to your point exactly, there was such everybody stopped for a moment and stopped looking out. They started looking in. They started to look at their neighbor. They took time. I mean, I was in Portland at the time, and I'll remember that we'd have homeless, as not as many as now, but I'm not in Portland anymore, but not as many as they do now, but they'd have homeless on the streets. People would actually stop and take time. They were going over to the mission to buy food tickets or give them a little bit of money. And it wasn't a care of whether that money was going to be used for drugs or something like that. It was almost like a tithe, a true tithe, meaning truly I'm taking compassion for my fellow man. And the world was changing. And then we have the famous Bush speech, buy a car, and it's like, dude, talk about like dropping the squash hammer on everything.
Right.
Go out and buy a car and help America. Forget the stuff of being nice to each other.
And then Bush the first saying, here's crack cocaine, the crack cocaine commercial.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Now we got to buy a car. But to your point, Scott, I still help homeless. In fact, I was, as you know, I was doxxed, and we have a family foundation. And here where I live in Florida, we have people that live in the trees, right? And it's a fact. Mm-hmm. They live in the trees, literally. And it's hot, it's rainy, it's pretty nasty in Florida, as you may know. So then we help them, and they can get hot meals, they get a P.O. box, they can get showers. And then we have another one that actually helps people figure out how to get an apartment. try to get the stuff that could be used for them. Like if they didn't know that there's a government help, they can get it, and then they can get a house, and then hopefully they can get a job, and then I mean, they've even bought cars for people that needed a car, and then they can just move out of that system. So we try to help people up and out. It's a hand up, not a hand out. And I think a lot of people need to really focus on that as well instead of. So I tell you, I think that compassion still is here, you know, in America today. If anybody falls, I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care any of that. I am going to help you up.
I'll tell you, it's that principle is really at the core of what a true tithe is. And I just want to touch on this because it's a principle that when we talk about faith and coming together and where we go one and where we go all, we really need to go back to the Old Testament and really respect what those words were. They get a little, the tithe that we think about that has become commercialized today is the tithe of the offering plate in the church. And I'll be honest with you, my faith is very strong. I'm very proud to be a Christian, but that is one of the things that grates on me all the time, because a true tithe comes from the heart.
Yes.
And a tithe is to share some of what we create. Now, if
with
what
your
we
fellow humans, not necessarily the established order.
correct. And you know, the fact is that we don't not everybody grows food these days or makes things. So money is a version of a tithe, but it's the intent that matters, right? So if it's just like, oh, I got to throw 50 cents or $50 into the offering plate to pay the church's light bills. That's not, to me, that's not really a tithe. It's what you're getting at exactly when you're helping somebody who's homeless. It's like you're taking care. Maybe you're taking the intent to say, you know, would you like a cup of coffee? Or can I get you some food? Can I do something for you that will be truly meaningful? And you're going to find those that don't want anything but the change to go buy some meth. And that's there is that. But in living in Portland was a humbling experience because there are a lot of homeless downtown. My office was downtown. And I'd go through homeless and through homeless youth every day walking to work. It was about a 2-mile walk from my condo. And very humbling. And I'm saying this because you definitely have those that want to be on the street, and you definitely have those that that are there because of mental and drug problems, and then you definitely have those that are literally lost.
Yeah.
There was a couple, or a young couple, boyfriend, girlfriend, and they were playing for some change on this corner of one of the bookstores downtown, and I really liked their sound. It was very hillbilly type music. And I was looking for another project. I was looking at getting some of this sound to use it. So I bought their CD. It was $10. And I asked them, I said, can we go get a cup of coffee? And I'd like to talk to you about maybe doing some more recording on stuff. This was what was so humbling. I mean, I got their whole story, and it really was humbling. Their ages were in the early 20s, 18 to 20 range. Okay. They were a class of people that I discovered that were traveling hobos. They were homeless.
Yeah.
And they traveled on trains. They had stories of their friends dying by falling off trains. I mean, they had literally witnessed some pretty horrific stuff. And the thing that's important is that I bought them a cup of coffee at a local coffee shop, which I didn't think twice about. I mean, it was a specialty coffee shop. They had literally never had a coffee from a coffee shop. And the idea of spending $3 was like unbelievable to them. Those are humbling moments. I'm going to tell you right now, and you kind of sit back and you go, okay, look, we've got a lot, and we have a lot more than we realize, but our fellow man needs to be remembered and needs to be respected. And because if we don't, especially with the youth, and it's very difficult right now with Antifa. Remember, I lived in Portland where Antifa got its incubation, and there's a good reason for that, because Portland has a high levels of sex trafficking. It has high levels of homeless children there. They're primed to recruit all of this. And they're easy to turn into an angry voice, very easy to turn that. And that's exactly what's happened. And the irony of this is I actually met with city folks in Portland in 2014. I sat down as they were now deciding that it was a good idea to put all the homeless and let all the homeless live on the streets down by the office. And I was one of the city planners. And I said, you do realize, I said, if you took someone like me that had a malintent, I could mobilize every one of those people and tear this entire city to the ground with a revolutionary army. And they're like, and the liberal concept was this. This is the response I got. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because we wanted them to be near the rich folks so that they would maybe share with one another. I'm like, what is
Wow.
what goes through your head? I'm sorry, but like,
how are you saying that was
I mean, so it's a pretty crazy. Portland's a really interesting city, other than the fact it's highly volatile and the police don't have any authority these days, and Antifa's running the town and all that. But it's really, if people want to awaken, look at Portland, because that's what things become when you turn your back on one another. When you live in your nice houses up on the hill, you do the thing of like, oh, it's okay, we got a local agency that'll take care of those kids, sweep them off the street.
Right.
I want to have my nice coffee shop to go to, but I don't really want them around. But if they are, it's okay. But matter of fact, you can bring a few of them in because I want to feel good, but just don't let them encroach on my table. I mean, that's literally Portland.
It is. And, you know, Scott, what really got me too, because I'm a watcher, if you will. And I really got mad at the saying, why don't you just get a job? Come on, just go why can't these people just get a job? Get a job. That's what we were programmed. But yet, at the same time, the cabal was moving any job that was worth a while out, of this country. And that really upset me when people were just saying, just get a job, to the people that, might have been mentally ill. And you remember back in the 90s, I think it was, they released all of the people from the veterans, hospitals out onto the streets. And I don't think people really understand, that we've been programmed to kind of turn our back on these folks.
Oh, I fully agree. And getting the job thing is really such a myth anyway, because the amount of capital it takes from somebody that has zero to be able to and has lived on the streets. So they've lost touch with a lot of the daily life stuff that a job requires. It's important. Right?
Like taking a shower, brushing your teeth, getting up and going to a job and putting clean clothes on. Yeah. Stuff like
exactly. And so how are we going to get them from where they are to being part of this, I'll call it the conform society, right? Where you now are, but the capital that requires is enormous. So the cabal has left us, no matter how this comes out, we know how this is going to come out. We're going to win. That is not an issue. But I think what people have to really think about is give some thought to. Right now we're in the middle of a war. This isn't time to solve these problems, but it is important as we go through to keep our thoughts forward of how do we resolve the issues that the cabal is leaving us with. We are literally going to be like someone who's gone through a severe breast surgery. We are going to be scarred, okay? There is no way around that. And they've done this intentionally. This is kind of their legacy gift. It's the scorched earth thing. It's like, oh, hey, guess what? Yeah, we'll eventually lose, but by the time we lose, we're going to try to leave you with so many emotional and physical and scars that will take you generations to recover, and then maybe we can start up again. That is literally their long plan. Okay?
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So the power of faith with us and the compassion and the coming together, it has to begin with some harsh truths. I know I put up a post yesterday that really got some people upset, but it has to do with abortion. And it's the point is that we have to begin with what those harsh truths are and face them. And if that means, like, you have to admit that you're a drug addict, you have to admit that, hey, some of the stuff you did was pretty nasty. Mm-hmm. That's how we begin with forgiveness and truth. But you can't just go along and go, hey, guess what? Everything's okay. And I'm going to just bring in my arms. I'm going to put my hug around you and say, everything is fine. That is not the way we get to this. So the truth is a difficult step for many to take. And it sometimes it's cold, but once we get there and you accept it, then you can step forward and go, okay, I understand where you are in that model. How do we discern between someone who says, yeah, I took the choice of leaving my wealthy family, which this is a true story. I took the choice of leaving my wealthy family, going on a world tour, living on the streets and selling my body because I wanted to learn what it was like to be a prostitute and to be homeless around the world. But then I came back and now I'm living happily in my family's big mansion on top of the hill. That's not truth. That's just nonsense. The person who gets who's out there, who's lived on the streets, had to suffer through some of this, as an example, if we're talking about homeless, has to gone through some really treacherous experiences. But we have to embrace what those were and what got them there. And then we can start to heal deeply. But we're going to have to really, all of us, share some of these very hard truths that are ahead of us. All of us.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you're absolutely 100% spot on with what you're saying there. And, we've been saying this for, over and over again, I feel like, but it boils down to responsibility. And our country is founded on that thought form. It's like a lot of people aren't quite understanding maybe so much. And even, I don't know, I was even going to say, if I could maybe go into reading Q Post 4545 from last night, guys, because I think this
reading my mind.
I think this plays right into what we're discussing here today and who we really are, because our country means so much to us, but it also means that it's not willy-nilly. You have to be responsible for your actions. You are guilty of everything that you've ever done, and you have to come to terms with that before the healing can begin. But this post last night, 4545, was so powerful to me. I was tearing up when I was even reading it, but I'd like to go into it.
Real quick too, Shady, I sent it to Scott. I said, I think, Q knows that you're going to be joining our program tomorrow. I got chills too, Shady. I sent you the same message, because, go ahead. Let's read this 4545, Shades.
Okay, guys. So I'd like to read this to you. Humanity is good, but when we let our guard down, we allow darkness to infiltrate and destroy. Like past battles fought, we now face our greatest battle at present, a battle to save our republic, our way of life, and what we decide, each of us now will decide our future. Will we be a free nation under God, or will we cede our freedom, rights, and liberty to the enemy? We all have a choice to make. Evil, darkness, has never been so exposed to light. They can no longer hide in the shadows. Our system of government has been infiltrated by corrupt and sinister elements. Democracy was almost lost forever. Think HRC install, 2+ Supreme Court justices, 200+ judges, rogue elements expanded inside DOJ, FBI, CIA, NSA, White House, State Department, on and on, removal, Second Amendment, border, etc. America for sale, China, Russia, Iran, Syria, ISIS, and LQ expansion. Al-Qaeda expansion, surveillance of domestic citizens, modify, change voter rules and regulations, allow illegals and ballot harvesting with Supreme Court-backed liberal social opinion, sell off of military to highest bidder to fight internal long-standing wars, their thirst for a one world order or destruction of national sovereignty serves to obtain control over America and her allies. Think EU, by diluting your vote to oblivion and installing a new one world ruling party. The start of this concept began with organizations such as WHO, WTC, United Nations, ICC, NATO, etc., all meant to weaken the United States. Also, the formation of EU through threat or con of close proximity attack. Attack on one is an attack on all. Sales pitch to the general public, fear control. Regarding EU, did each member nation cede sovereignty to Brussels? Regarding EU, each member must implement EU rules and regulations in all areas. Think immigration, currency, overall control. Their thirst to remove your ability to defend yourself serves to prevent an uprising to challenge their control. There is a fundamental reason why our enemies dare not attack, invade our borders: armed citizenry. If America falls, so does the world. If America falls, darkness will soon follow. Only when we stand together, only when we are united, can we defeat this highly entrenched dark enemy. Their power and control relies heavily on an uneducated population, a population that trusts without individual thought, a population that obeys without challenge, a population that remains outside of free thought and instead remains isolated, living in fear inside of the closed loop echo chamber of the controlled mainstream media. This is not about politics. This is about preserving our way of life and protecting the generations that follow. We are living in biblical times, children of light versus children of darkness, united against the invisible enemy of all humanity. Q.
That's some powerful stuff.
That is powerful, guys. And it talks right to responsibility, and it talks right to us standing up and being heard. And the silent majority, to me, you know, we kind of talk about this idea of a silent majority, and oh, it's sort of funny, but think about what's really funny is why is the majority so silent? That's what people should understand. Like, we're quiet for a reason, and the reason is because the echo chamber of everyone else's opinion and the mob mentality that's out there keeps people from speaking, and we're supposed to have the right to free speech, but everything in the media says anything that you say that's pro-nationalist or pro-America is hate speech or white supremacy talk. You know, so there is this delicate balance, Bards. You were hitting on this perfectly, I felt like, of where we are in our conversations right now about the battle, but what we're doing in the conversations of how do we repair it? How do we fix it? How do we reach down to pull a brother up whenever a brother doesn't want pulled up? You know, these are very difficult circumstances that we find ourselves in as a country.
They are. And I mean, we're not going to walk out of this. I think the thing to get through to people, and I've had some of the conversations I've exchanged with General Flynn have said the same thing, is that this isn't just going to solve itself with one election. And I think there is, we have to kind of look at the way the awakening has to look. When on the for those that were awake when President Trump was on the campaign trail and we were engaging with people, we all knew that there was a limit to how far people could accept. I was sitting with my mom the other day, and it was interesting. I was laughing because I'm like, you do realize that 4 years ago, I said, if I had mentioned clones or I had mentioned chemtrails, I said, you were looking at me like I was like coming off of somebody
Like,
off of a
what
spaceship.
around.
Right. And I said, and you do realize today that we're literally talking about those things, and you're saying, yeah, it could be. I mean, think about that growth in thinking, all right? And that's what it is taking for us to break through. Now, so to be clear, I'm not saying either one is right or wrong on these things. So people are all going to go like, oh, Bard's is saying there's clones. Look, I know the technology exists. I'll tell you that. I can assure you of that. But
we got a question. Is Biden a clone? That's we already have a question.
Well, so I'm just gonna, let's just jump into this one. This is a good one. Okay, I'm just going to jump 2 feet. So this is how I explain clones. If anybody's seen the movie of Avatar, which deals with a synthetic being that is run by another person who's kind of telepathically connected, that's the principle of the movie Avatar. All right. So this is open source, so this is not classified. I'm going to be very clear about this. I was assigned a task that I worked with a really good researcher that was one of my employees, and we put together an assessment for one of the defense labs of what the future threat technologies that we saw emerging within the next 10 and 20 years that would be significant for us to be concerned about, okay? Based completely on open source research. And we were doing this for 2 reasons. One, to show how much was out there, because I was part of a team of a technology team looking at the type of technologies that were being developed in garages and backyards and not in labs. Okay. And that's why this research was important, because if we're seeing it out in the public sphere, then it's possible. Okay. The Avatar technology we assessed was available to any sort of warlord from what we knew, within 10 years. I want you to think about that. 10 years. And that study was done in 2015. Okay. That is one that you are a microchip away from a clone, just so I say it. All right, because that whole concept of avatar is that person's put into a stasis and then they're bridged. That same year, DARPA revealed, it's publicly revealed, which means if whenever you see a public reveal, the classified work is usually about 5 to 10 years ahead of it. They revealed that they had managed to connect 2 mice to telepathically communicate with one another with brain chips. And another guy in England who was a scientist, built his own nerve chip, and he had it embedded in himself and had another one embedded in his wife. And they created a robotic arm that they moved to New York. They moved the arm to New York, not him. And he could control the robotic arm from New York with his own hands through a Wi-Fi connection. Okay.
Whoa.
This technology is this. You can find that in there.
It's like a consciousness transfer, you know?
Right. I mean, we're dealing with the technologies are out there. So when we talk about things, when people say like, well, I don't believe in clones or I don't believe in this, don't get so rigid in, and I just put this caution out there. We have to also be careful not to get so locked into what I would call dogma of faith, where it says that can't happen. If you go into the book of Enoch and you really look at that from an optic of like science and faith, you're like, holy cow, there was a lot of pretty dark arts given to God's children that weren't supposed to be. That's kind of a very quick summary of Enoch, right? That then leads to the art of war and all this other stuff. So technologies exist out there. When we talk about brain to brain transfer, we talk about projecting ideas into people's head. I can tell you all that technology is there. So when you hear about MK Ultra, for example, that's a very real program. That's it's not like, and I know you guys know this, I mean, it's not like that's any sort of tin hat stuff. In fact, that's just a catch-all for about 50 other programs that they've done of various levels of insanity, of controlling human beings. So when we talk about what we're facing as an enemy, I think it's very important that people appreciate the complexity that this enemy has built in its layers of threat. It's not just a couple people up in the sewer of DC that are just stealing money. I mean, that's part of where this Q post is so important. The one, not just the one you read, but the new one that just came up, 4550, which is you're being given a gift, and you are being presented with a gift of vision. Man, there is no greater gift than vision, than to be able to truly see what your enemy is there. And wow. And this is where you need faith, because if you sit here and you cower now and you go, oh, they're too big, they're too sophisticated, oh, you've already lost. I mean, that now to just use Q posts again, let's go back to what it said in Q post 4544. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunset patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. Don't be a summer soldier and a summer soldier and a sunshine patriot. Mm-hmm. The only way you're not going to be that is if you have solid faith and know that you have no fear. God will take care of you. Trust that God will deliver that. And by the way, that doesn't mean he's bringing pizza tomorrow. Okay.
Oh yeah, you mean he's not going to pay for my Netflix subscription?
Right. I mean, this is the thing. I love this sometimes, and I'm not mocking this, but I hear this like God wins. Well, yeah, I know. It's like I got it over the eons of time. God's going to win. End of story. But if my expectation is God's going to win on the next election, I'm not going that way.
Well,
okay, that's kind of,
you brought up something too. Like, this is not just another 4-year election, and you hit on it earlier. This is not just, are you going to vote for Obama or are you going to vote for McCain? This is not just another 4-year election. I am so tired of voting for a lesser evil. I always hated that saying.
Oh, yeah. People, I mean, that's so true. People they do that, miss what's happening. Here's, we kind of hit on this earlier. Go ahead.
By the way, I might have a little surprise for you in about 5 minutes.
I was saying that's a program as well. It's a program that it's going to take care of itself.
Well, it is, and the thing is that this is again. There's a great thing that I always kind of live by, and to be honest, I've mentioned it a couple times in my podcast. I had a very good friend who was he was a shaman, and he was just an exceptional
There he
person
is.
of spirits of life. Okay, he just looking at life through a beautiful lens, and he'd always say this: "Do not hang on to the outcomes, hang on to the process." And
Hey,
I just love
That
that.
is amazing. Hey, Scott, why don't you welcome who just jumped on to, can you see who just jumped into Zoom?
Looking. Holy cow, Joe!
We've
what's
got
going
Joe
on?
Flynn. Joe, come on in.
Hey, Joe. What's going on?
How are you, Joe? Nice to see
Good. Nice to see you guys. What's going on?
Holy-
JD, you're looking a little green, man.
Yeah, he looks,
I know,
he
man,
looks a little froggy, doesn't he?
I had a weird meal last night.
So everybody out here, I don't have the it's just your voice, Joe. So just everybody,
okay.
Everybody out here in YouTube land, Mr. Joseph Flynn just joined us. I wanted to surprise Scott Kesterson, and Joe, we have Scott Kesterson, Bards of War, who's communicated with your brother several times.
That's my brother, Scott. How are you, brother?
I'm great, Joe. It's so good to have you on. Man, I'll tell you, I'm going to say, Patriots, Joe is one of the hardest fighting trench fighters, counter punchers you are ever going to meet when it comes out here to defending the family, defending his brother, and loving America. So if you haven't listened to some of the interviews he's done with me, and I'm not just pitching the channel, I'm just being truly, go dig them up and listen to them, because Joe just lays it straight. I love it every time.
Yeah, he's been on here. He's been a friend of the Matrixxx Grooove show here too. He actually came on and surprised Out of Shadows. That was amazing. So Joe's been, this is your like fifth or sixth time here, Joe, right?
Yeah, with you guys many times. You guys do a great job, and you've been so supportive. And I guess like lately, and Scott's there. I mean, we've been ramping and amping it up because the fight is getting really intense right now.
Yeah,
it's getting so intense. This whole new Russia nonsense that the New York Times is reporting. I mean, I've been battling that on a pretty daily basis with all the fake news contacts I have that reach out to me because they know about, they know about who we know inside the Pentagon without going into detail. And I kept saying that to them. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. It's raw intelligence. And there's no way there's no way, first of all, that it should have ever leaked. Second of all, that the president would be briefed on something so spurious as this. Absolutely. But I told Scott this the other day. When you start seeing rhinos and you start seeing even like the Lincoln Foundation people pushing this really hard, that this is a total setup and a total fabrication. So, this kind of stuff's very damaging. We have to fight it really hard right now. Anyway, that's my...
and that's exactly what we're trying to do too. We had Roger Stone on yesterday, Joe. We're trying to actually get a lot of the Patriot community united, which is why I'm so happy that Scott joined us today as well. We're all doing our own thing, and we're doing it well. Scott's doing an amazing job. But we need to unite this movement. We're all kind of doing our separate things, and there's been a lot of infighting within the movement, and here I am trying to lay an olive branch out to anybody out there that has attacked us or we've defended ourselves against them. We're here to unite this movement because it is where we go one, we go all.
Well, I think it's really important, really, really important. I've had a lot of, I've given advice to a lot of different kind of people that reach out to me about this. It's like, it doesn't really matter what group you belong to of any kind. If you love this country and you believe in the rule of law in the Constitution, now is the time to stand up and fight.
Yeah.
And forget about whether you agree 100% with one person or the other. I mean, there's people out there fighting.
Yes.
And they have to be supported, whether they are part of your quote unquote little clique or not. Stop with your bullshit and fight. That's what you need to do.
That's it. We actually had young Pharaoh on, who is red pilling the black community. We actually got a lot of his people here today. There might be some young Pharaoh viewers out here now, so we united that. And as soon as we're leaving the show, Joe, Q posted, "Humanity is good and patriots have no skin color." And
That's right.
And what young Pharaoh did was he challenged a lot of people's belief system out there. But what we've got to understand is, you are okay to believe what you want to believe, and you're okay to not believe what he believes, but we're pointing the gun at the same enemy is the
That's right.
That's all we need to do is point the gun
That's
at the
right.
same enemy. We don't need to all believe the same thing, right, Joe?
No doubt about it. And I think, General Flynn's tweet yesterday, just the title, the first sentence in and of itself, 2% of the passionate defeat 90%, 98% of the indifferent, all 100% of the time.
Yes.
So if we don't understand how important that statement is, then we might as well hand this country over to the Marxists, because that is where this is going. If 98% of the indifferent don't do something about it, and do something about it now.
So let me jump in there real quick, Joe, because it's in an insurgency like this, it's common to have the 2% is your kind of your they're not retrievable. In military terms,
right.
we aren't saying this for Q folks, but in military terms, an insurgency, those are your capture kill.
Yeah.
That's your 2%. They're gone, right?
Yeah.
Your 4 to 6% are the ones that will hang on to the ideology, and they are you might pull some, but for the rest, they'll live within a system, but they'll forever try to regenerate their old ideas. Why this is important is the 4 to 6% is the 4 to 6% what we're witnessing right now, but you've got to get real on what those numbers are. That's 13 million to 19 million people. Forget the percentages, get hard on numbers. So when you talk about that, you're talking about 13 million to 19 million potential voters. So that tells you, do not sit on the couch. You've got to get active. And that's 13 to 19 million people that want to take over your school boards. They want to take over your city council, your county commission, and your sheriffs. So don't be complacent.
That's right.
That's right. And I love when they keep telling that Biden's ahead in the polls, because maybe they'll just sit home. That's really a bad strategy if you think about it.
Think about this. Think about how. Let's go back a little bit, pre-COVID, with the Democratic primary. Think about how Biden was buried and gone. Everybody wrote him off, and Bernie was surging. Late January, early February, all of a sudden Biden comes out of nowhere. Okay, and Bernie's bros get blown out. Why? Why did that happen? Apparently, Bernie didn't really have the voters. In other words, people that followed Bernie talked a big game and rallied a big way, but he could not get all those people to vote, to go to
the polls.
Vote. That's right. So it says something a lot about what's going on here with Biden and Trump. If Biden is going to win, if he can muster up the votes of the Bernie bros in those states, which are critical, and that assumes that those Bernie bros or Bernie supporters are going to actually go vote. And I question that, Scott. I don't know what you think.
Well, I guess where I've been saying earlier in the show, Joe, is that, and I think this is right on line with what you're saying. Don't judge the left's turnout by the Biden rallies.
Right.
That is the one thing about the left is they can't agree on anything, but they can agree on one thing, and that is they hate President Trump.
Right.
So that alone, the left will do these weird things, like they'll accept a candidate like Biden, who quite frankly most of them hate, simply to get a win on the board, even if it's not the win they want. They play a very, very long game, and
they do.
And Patriots need to really get that around their head. Is like, man, when we look at them and they go, oh, they lost an election, that's not the way the left sees it. They're like, how many more people did we get at this election than the last one? That's how they think.
True. Very good point. Excellent point. Point. Yeah.
So so I wanted to real quick just get a little update, Joe, on the situation. We've been following Sydney pretty well. We see that it's a complete farce. We know that the judge is kind of hanging on, just maybe to, I don't know. We had Stone yesterday. He kind of delivered a big boom. He's got the same issues as your brother, as you know.
Yeah.
He kind of mentioned that there are 16 judges kind of reporting into one. I thought that was a big boom. We're going to dig that out, and I'll send it to you to show you what I mean. But
I think he's talking about the appeals court.
The appeals
what
court.
We're dealing, what we're dealing with is the appeals court in the District of Columbia. And, Sydney, by forcing a petition of writ of mandamus, absolutely forced their hand, and she won that. That was a huge victory last week. And it can't be understated, because everyone said she was crazy and it would never work. And not only that, but if anyone listened to the hearing we had with those judges, you would have, if you weren't really tuned in, you would have said, we got our asses handed to us. Turns out that wasn't the case. Turns out Sydney and the Solicitor General, who argued on behalf of the government, absolutely presented their arguments perfectly, and the writ of mandamus was granted. Now the judge still has the ability to not sign the dismissal. The problem is, if he doesn't sign that dismissal by the 21st of July, it's game over. At that point, there's no, charges get automatically dropped. So he does have a deadline.
So the July 21st is that deadline now, right?
July 21st is the deadline.
Okay.
What he does in between, his options are pretty limited. He can request an en banc review, which would require that all of the judges on the circuit court rule on this writ of mandamus. He has not done that yet. The panel that had, the panel that voted in favor of the writ of mandamus could shoot that down. So, he's kind of in check right now. I wouldn't say he's in checkmate, because if he's in checkmate, then it's game over. But he's in check. I think he's, trying to weigh his options. But, Sidney Powell, who the mainstream media and the lawfare elite in Washington have written off as a conspiracy theorist for the past 4 or 5 years, you can't understate how badly she kicked their asses using the law, not using favors from anybody. Brandon Van Grack was the prosecutor on this case right up until the end, when he himself decided to leave the case. So Sydney has been battling this. I think the Attorney General did the right thing in bringing somebody in from the outside to review it. And that person saw that there was a lot of Brady material that had not been handed over. And that Brady material didn't turn out to be kind of nice little tidbits. It turned out to be absolutely explosive. So, she's she's the guardian angel of American justice.
She sure is, I tell you. And she's got a lot of people behind him. We got a lot of people. Yep. Go ahead.
I saw the interview last night that she did, and it was pretty funny the way she said, "Okay, well, as long as they're going to keep dragging on, they still owe me stuff. So where is it?"
Yeah.
Well, she did a great interview with the Epic Times with Jan. I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing.
Yeah, great interview. I recommend people see it. It's all over Twitter. Go to Sydney's site, Sydney's Twitter feed, and you can see it. Listen to that interview. Every law school in the United States should have that as required viewing for any young defense attorneys or people with the the ambition to be a defense attorney. Should watch that. It's a class in how to defend an innocent victim and how to overcome a corruption in the justice system. It's just amazing. I mean, we continue to be totally amazed by her on a regular basis, and luckily, I'm going to see her over the 4th of July. I haven't seen her in a while.
That's amazing.
Joe, the one thing that Sydney should remind every patriot of is one person can change the world. She has literally gone into
True.
this trench and never stopped fighting. And the story that for those, Joe's interview will be up on Bards of War, our Bards FM late tonight, early tomorrow morning. And Joe talks about kind of how they met and what's behind that. And it is a really enlightening story to realize where you were in January and how far Sydney has taken this.
Yeah.
And she's just one exceptional attorney that is just believes in God and believes in this country. And that's as simple as to put it right there.
General Flynn put it a really funny way when we were all sitting around fairly recently up in Washington fighting this. He said talking about himself, I was 6 feet under with a straw coming out of the ground, barely breathing when we found Sydney. And he's like, and sand was coming into the straw.
Oh, wow.
And then we found Sydney, and she changed everything. She changed our outlook. She changed General Flynn's entire demeanor. I'll tell you that. General Flynn and Lori, his wife's entire demeanor was completely transformed with the arrival of Sidney Powell in our lives. He had never really had experience with the legal system. Maybe in the military, should we do this? Should we do that? But, they always had a lawyer, in these commands. They had, a military lawyer, but nothing like this. And, and he went naively into the relationship with Covington Burling, thinking they were going to do the right thing, and that was a mistake. We a very bad mistake. And, of course we suffered for that.
He trusted
but
his lawyers. Oh my gosh, I know. Go ahead.
Yeah. When Sidney came into his life, it was like a transformation. It was like the spark that was needed to stop the fear and then really just energize the whole family and really energize Mike and Lori for sure.
I got to tell you, General Flynn's digital soldiers felt the same exact way, Joe.
Yeah.
We were like, oh my
gosh. By the way, we had no idea. We had no idea whether she was going to succeed or not succeed. Zero.
Right. Right. I think a lot of the people going under the DOJ, calling them out on their crap on Twitter, actually kind of helped, because we found Pietnik. We found who that guy was, the Anons, through, Q kind of, asking questions. And we're like, you guys got to drop this case. This is absolutely ridiculous. So I think a lot of the digital soldiers that actually went under the Department of Justice Twitter helped Sydney to actually get to that next, and I'm not trying to take any credit for anybody or anything, but I think we fighting alongside of you guys, digital soldiers, not, everybody here, everybody out there has actually helped out an awful lot. Yeah,
I agree. No, there is no question about that. I mean, I'm touting Sydney because of the importance of it, but the digital soldiers, the digital soldiers were motivated and were given hope when Sydney came in, and I think all those elements working together is really how we got to where we are right now. We're not over. It's not over.
Yeah, it's not over.
There's always a worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that it goes on bonk, and then we have to go in front of the Supreme Court, and we're talking 5-6 months, and the election's over, and Joe Biden wins, and
nope.
I mean, this could go in a lot of different directions.
Bite your tongue with the Joe Biden win thing.
Well, I'm just saying.
I know.
Well, I think that's an important point, though, right there. And that is,
this is not just another 4-year election, Scott.
Not another 4-year election, and nothing is guaranteed. There's a saying in conflict and in war that no plan survives first contact. And I've said this a lot in my podcast, and I hope people really understand that. I know Q puts out a lot of stuff, and there is hope built into that as well. But when you listen to Joe's interviews and you're getting kind of the meat of what's going on, you realize that the only outcome is going to be a victory is if you never ever stop fighting. It literally, and I'm not trying to quote the film, but is literally fighting is everything. If you are not living that mantra, we are not going to get through this.
Yeah.
We fight every day here. Absolutely. And that is very good advice. And we got a lot of people on the board here that are fighting every day. Bards. Wow. Very well said,
You always
sir,
have
Scott.
You always have to, like everything in life, right? Like you're even in your own family planning, expect the worst and hope for the best, right?
100%. And
Plan for the worst.
5D chess.
Right. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, and always be optimistic and put your faith in God, because at the end of the day, that's all you got.
100%.
Well, it's interesting to me to see like the way the establishment has attacked Sydney and came at her in this sort of like unorthodox manner, considering that she had the experience that she had before with Judge Sullivan and the other book. And she also, if you know, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but to everybody else out there, she was bringing a good amount of faith to the table that this judge was going to see clearly how erred and is going to rectify the situation once he understands what the DOJ has done in this case. But, even with being presented the idea of this mountain of exculpatory evidence, which all of us are granted to have any evidence that might prove us innocent, that's been withheld from this huge case, and then no one seems to want to come to that defense at all. And it really just makes you wonder, how would any of these people act if the tables were turned? They're all slimy little, weak-kneed people who just stand up and attack Sydney, but in all reality, they would go looking for someone like Sydney if their butt was on the fire.
Well, they certainly will. They certainly will now.
Yeah.
If they didn't before. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful story, in terms of Sidney Powell, because, she was derided, regularly by the mainstream media because she supported. Number one, because she supported President Trump. That's always where it starts. You support President Trump, and anyone in the mainstream media is going to deride you, even though better part of more than 50% of the country supports the president and what he's trying to do. But the mainstream media just completely derided her, and she triumphed over them, and they can't stand it. I mean, the op-ed in the New York Times last weekend about, her relationship with the president and her secret letter to Attorney General Barr. It was hilarious because there was no secret about it. She disclosed it in a filing. Everybody saw her letter to the Attorney General, and they acted like she was having secret conversations with the Attorney General. We didn't get rid of Brandon Van Grack until about 5 weeks ago.
Wow.
He was, he was part of Wiseman's group. It's not like the Attorney General, became our ally. He became our ally, or he became aware of the reality of the farce of this case through the investigation of Brady material, which Sidney was asking for. And so this all happened because of Sidney Powell's excellent lawyering.
100%. She is a patriot. I tell you. Do you realize, real quick, what's her name? Hillary Clinton tweeted out a political article that included 200 Twitter accounts calling me a foreign disinfo agent. And I
calling you that?
Yeah, I'm on Hillary's top 200 list, Joe.
Wow.
Yeah,
good
man.
For you.
Thank you. And we
get a hat made of that.
I should get that. Well, the trolls hate when I say that. Oh, there he goes again, saying the top 200 list.
I'm having him a badge made.
But I actually spoke to Sydney because she was going to take our case. She's got my information. I'm glad she didn't take our case and took General Flynn's. Let me tell you that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's amazing.
Hopefully she'll be available. Well, I'm hoping. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
So let's just, Scott, would you mind maybe doing a prayer right now for General Flynn, the family, all the digital soldiers, the president, everybody involved on the front line, Scott?
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time we've had with Joe and continued reminder of the ongoing fight and struggle that General Flynn is facing and the family continues to face. We know that literally we have to continue to keep our faith and our foot in this fight at all times. And with that, we know that we need you. We're reminded of Psalm 27:8. Some trust in chariots and some trust in horses, but we must trust in the name of the Lord our God. They collapse and fall, but we rise and stand upright. So, Lord, we look to you for giving us that continued strength to march forward, to never bend a knee except to you, and to always stand in this fight until we win. We say these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And I'd like to show Barbara taking the oath real quick. Here we go.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter. So help me God. Where we go one, we go all. God bless America.
God bless you, Barbara.
Wow.
Joe, that's amazing.
Five-time East Coast senior women's surf champion right there.
There she is.
Wow, holy cow.
And Joe's quite the rocker. What was the name of the band again, Joe?
Let's not go there. That's
I love it. No. So I actually did some digging and I surprised him and I got his, we played him. So if you look back, find Joe Flynn with Shady here on the Matrixxx Groove show. You can go find Joe singing. I actually thought it was pretty good, Joe.
No, we had a great run. We had a great run. All right, listen, guys, I got to head back to work.
No, Joe,
Nice
thank
to
you.
talk to y'all.
Thanks, Joe. Good seeing you.
Much
Nice
love.
talking to
God
y'all.
bless you and the family, sir.
God bless. Cheers.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How was that, guys? Joe Flynn popped in. Scott, what do you think?
That's awesome. Joe is so great. You know, when there's a really good friend that put me in touch with Joe, and I had to kind of go through Sydney's office and so forth. And when they first set up that interview, but man, we've hit it off. Joe is fantastic. Like I said, you've just heard him here. I mean, he is such a trench fighter. I love the way he swings. He does not hesitate to call it like it is.
Yeah, and he's been so good to us as well. Like I said, his brother followed me on 4/19, which is my brother's birthday, believe it or not. And 4/19 is a pretty big day in history as well, 2018. And it's been an honor fighting for him and communicating with him a little bit here and there. We may or may not be communicating here and there. But I tell you, Scott, everybody out there, Shady got me out of I don't like my voice. Why am I doing this? We're here together and we're going to be united and we're starting to unite now. A lot of the Patriots, we just need to get back together and stop this infighting. You know, I see, people are worried about this account, that account. You know what? If they're talking good about President Trump and this country, I don't care if they wear purple shoes. I don't care. It's so stupid. Helping people, and I did a red shoe thing for Safe Space, which is a battered women thing, and now I'm a satanic pedophile with War Drummer. It's just been outstanding, the Democrat wrap-up smears that have been done on really good patriots, and we need to look past that. And I thank God every day that most everybody, Scott, actually did their own research and thought for themselves. And here we are today with you, sir.
Well, I'll tell you guys, we mentioned this earlier before the show, and I'm just going to bring it up. I mean, there was a pretty big blow up last year, as we know, and in the Q group, and I've tried to stay out of that, but I've always respected your work a lot. Excuse me.
Thank you.
And I don't have any time. I don't think anybody should have any time for some of these petty fights. It's not, and especially when it blows up into the main forum. We do different things. We have to do different things to make this thing work. And the commitment when you look at it, you sit there today, we're 3.5 years into President Trump's office. We're 2.5 years into Q. Just take a breath and look around at who's still standing. And you guys are here, right? And and that should say everything. That's just enough. I mean, because you're not going to get through greatness without going through a real trial by fire. I've had my own, and there's been some really tough times since 2017. I've really been through some trials, and I've had to put up with my own version of your attack, only it's more personal. Mm-hmm. And you just have to buckle down and ask yourself, and this is truly the other day, I was in prayer, and this question was put before me, which was, why are you doing this? And you ask yourself that. It's like, why are you doing this? Are you doing this for you? Are you doing this for President Trump? Are you doing this for country and God and country? What are you doing this for? And the answer for me was simple. I'm doing this for God. And with it, I'm bringing with it all my passion for this country. And I say that very specifically because President Trump is one man. We've talked about this. And there's a lot of things that he's going to have to do to make sure that a lot of things continue to work so people will be stable financially. We get through this nonsense of the virus. And he plays this song at the end of his campaign. If you've heard it recently,
Can't always get.
He's get what you want, right? But you may get what you need, right? That is really a lot of truth in that. We all want something very specific right now. We all want to return to our country. We want to get back to a constitutional republic. We got people screaming all the time about this or that. That's good discourse, by the way. That is healthy discourse. That is what makes Patriots strong, because we don't accept anything less than what we passionately believe in until we get to that point when we have to come together. And then that's when you're like, okay, this is how we kind of have to shape it. But everybody's voice is heard. So don't diminish, don't just because your voice is out here and you're like, well, President Trump isn't doing this or that, I'm giving up on him. That is not the right answer. Okay. That is one of the reasons I make a point on my Twitter account. I'll tag President Trump and I'll ask questions, or I'll say, like, I don't agree with this. And I'll get the Patriots will come up and they'll be like, well, you're obviously not supporting President Trump. It's like, no, actually, I'm supporting him the greatest way I possibly can as his supporter. I'm telling him the truth, right? I'm saying this, maybe I'm the only voice. And maybe that one voice is something he didn't hear. And he's like, didn't think about that. And he was in a fantastic meeting. And it's such an example of this in Detroit. And he was with the black leaders of Detroit. I don't know if anybody saw this, but there's a woman there who was saved. Well, she was sick from the COVID virus, and then it was hydroxychloroquine that saved her life. And as she's talking, she said, she was asked to come. She said, I'm so honored, Mr. President, to be here. And I have some things I want to present to you that I think will make a difference in Detroit. And she said, we need black universities here in Detroit. And President Trump sat there for a minute, and she went through her whole spiel, and he stopped her and he goes, I want to go back to what you just said. He said, I never thought about that. And he turned to his advisor. He said, will you make that happen? Listen to that one point. She brings up a point he hadn't considered, and the President of the United States turns to his advisor and says, make that happen. Folks, that's the power of speaking truth right there. You may not be heard, and it may not go anywhere, but if we don't speak truth, we are not going to get this country moving where we are. And as we fight together, we speak truth together. Sometimes we disagree. Patriots are raucous, man. I'm telling you, it's like the old pubs clinking beer steins, and sometimes you get a little ruffian fight, and somebody gets thrown out, and beer gets spilled, and we clean it up, and we come around, we give each other a hug at the end of the day, and go, "Poof, that was a good discussion."
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what we got to be.
And that's
being an American.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is the only in the last hour. This is Trump's tweet. In reality, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way. Isn't that amazing?
This is the truth.
This is the truth. Scott, I tell you, is there anything we left out? I mean, we might have to have another session with you.
Are you willing to come back, Scott?
Oh, absolutely, guys. I love this show. I love your format, and you can have me back on anytime. I'll make the time for it. This is such a great time to be involved in the fight. I do want to highlight a couple of things, if I may.
Please. And we're not really, we don't need to go. I just want to make sure that you understand that you're welcome back. And if we left anything out, I want you to have the floor, sir.
Well, so before we close out, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that last night I put out a tweet, and I'm stunned at how successful it is. And I want to point everybody to this. It's pinned on my page, Bards FM. And the tweet read this: post your favorite memes. This will function as an interim resource library. Patriots, we have 4.5 thousand responses to this. I've calculated there's almost 6,000 memes sitting there, if not more. That is there for everybody to use. That's why I did it. It's pinned. It's going to stay pinned. If you need memes, I'm not looking for traffic on the site. I don't need that. This is for everybody. I can't believe the beautiful response. Listen to these numbers. Man, this tweet has been viewed 294,000 times since, and it has been up 16 hours. 16 hours. Okay. This is what we need more of, right? So if you need a meme, get over and steal one. I'm not, yeah, that, literally, like,
Right click and save.
right, right. That's nice.
Oh, check your mic, but I think you might be. Matrixxx was just trying to tell you guys that he had put up his memes as well from back in Christmas time, and that you guys were amazing at all of the information you brought to his thread, and he was going to let Bards know that he can use those memes as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna retweet it as well, guys. I'm so sorry, and Shady, thanks for getting my back. Yes, so the memes are important. We get that Q post that says you guys are, we're ready. The memes, music, we got the mission, the 4 missions. We've got to get out there, and we've got a lot of resources out there. And I will send. I had a tweet every time a meme. Every time you take a meme, an anon gets their wings. So I'll retweet that again today for you, and I'll send it over.
Hey guys, I am gonna go ahead and make an announcement. I know this is the end of the show,
breaking.
But it is breaking. I want people to know this is kind of big news. And I mentioned it to you before, so here's the deal. We are currently, and I say we, so I've got a couple special operations buddies of mine that are from some of the America's finest, truly, and I mean that. And myself, and I've even had some input from General Flynn. We are putting together the first of its kind digital soldier tactics field manual. Hence, you'll see Bards FM. That's got a dual meaning, not just FM, the channel, but field manual as well. So here's the deal. This is going to be free. It's not going to be a charged product, nothing like that. But the target is to have this out in about 2 weeks. And believe me, if I can get it done sooner, I will. But guys, when I get this out, I'd love to get on here and dig into it if we could, maybe do a show on it and really talk about the tactics, the things that, and in the meantime, I'm going to be focusing a lot of my feed and podcasts in the coming week on some tactics, organizations, things like that for digital soldiers. It is a different approach to fighting for some, partly because they've not experienced warfare. But what's interesting about digital warfare, we're just taking regular tactics of like Ranger tactics and special operations tactics, and we're now applying that digital space to it. And we're going to really bring that to the digital army. And this should empower everybody to get out there and literally like destroy the enemy. I mean that.
Seriously. Oh man, I think that would be a great idea for to come in, and then we just kind of dissect it and have our just general conversations around it, and give the people a little bit of a different type of ammo, like make a show that's sort of based around what the manual, and then people can take that and share with their friends. Because man, I'm telling you, I'm having some really amazing success with explaining different things to some different people, but there's also a lot of people out there that are so resistant to understanding this application, Bards, like the whole thing with the memes and the information. Like I kind of, the only way I can reference is like everyone is so used to having their information all nice and pretty for them, like on a breakfast plate, and the orange juice is there and everything is on the plate and it's all perfect, and you just consume your news and you move on about your day. But anons have decided to take this in a completely different course of action, which is the information is raw, it's intelligence, some of it's real, some of it's so, but it's all coming at you at the same time. It's dirty. We're processing, as anons, we're processing dirty information, and we're trying to refine it, much like making a sculpture or something, And so we got to get rid of this, because this doesn't match up with reality and all of these different aspects. But really, I mean, I think that is our true power and spirit as digital soldiers, is that ability to look at a meme that has a graphic that's pointing 16 different ways and sit there and you have to think about it. You have to like understand what it means. And that environment is what a lot of people I think that are new to this are having a little bit of trouble with. So I think that we could really maybe set up something that puts off to a lot of success from what you're speaking about there.
I think we can. I just want to kind of capstone one thing here on this, and that is memes. And we've kind of have a generic meaning. Well, I should say a modern meaning of it. It's, right. It's a picture with some sort of picture and words that go together. But there is actually a science that goes behind this, and it's called memetics.
Memetics,
yep. And for those that don't understand memetics in a simple term is called creating a virus of the mind. And what is so powerful about memetics and the meme is that when you're putting an image with those words in front of somebody, the conscious mind is processing about 1,000 times slower than the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind may reject it, but the subconscious mind takes it in. So remember that. That's why these memes are so important, because not only do they bypass the AI filters, but in one quick snapshot, it's an image. The brain takes that snapshot. It's not reading words. It's literally snapping that picture. And that picture is going into your subconscious. And the more you drop these, it doesn't matter whether a person has 5 people on their thread or 5,000 people. Every time you drop one, when they see it, that's dropping into their subconscious. And that's what's starting to shake and rock away their lock into the matrix. And enough of those, it creates a conflict within their subconscious that ultimately, like a ship has to right itself, it will naturally seek truth. That's the power right there, right?
100%. And do you want to know a real interesting coincidence? Is that 1900, the last president, it's called A Work of Memetic Occultism.
Oh.
Yes.
Baron von Trump. Yep. Little Baron Trump.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's a coincidence.
That whole book is like another rabbit hole. Oh man, I'm telling you. That's seriously like when you sit back and you go, okay. All right.
Looking Glass is real. Maybe it is Looking Glass, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
The other day, whenever I was being interviewed, she asked me the question. She was like, "What is the hardest thing for you to reconcile in the Q movement?" I'm like, the hardest thing for me to reconcile is how in the world is Donald Trump doing this without a time machine?
Let's make another thing too. Shady and I were talking. It's like, we realized that when General Flynn says we have an army of digital soldiers, that's actually a future proves past.
Yeah, because it's 2016.
That's a great statement. I was explaining this to one of my SOF buddies, special operations buddies, yesterday, and he's just an unbelievable American. Just so I highlighted, he was the guy at the end of the film in Black Hawk Down. What is that? The guy that at the end he goes like, I look to my neighbor and people don't know what I did. And and they asked me what I did and I don't say anything. Remember that guy at the end of the film? Yep. Okay. That character was modeled off of my buddy. Okay. That's because he was there. And he was that guy. All right. So my point of this is we were talking about this concept of how far the digital army was going. And I told him, I said, do you realize that we're talking in the millions now? And he goes, I had no idea. And I said, yeah, I mean, we're literally talking about a citizens Minuteman digital army of the modern day that's holding the line of defense of America that's in the millions. And it's not just here, it's all over the world. I mean, these are people that are all over the world that are, and you've seen it too. I've had people on my own, when I did the oath piece the other day, they've had people from Canada, from New Zealand, from UK going, I'm not American, but I'm taking the oath with you. And that's incredible, right?
Absolutely, 100%. We have Q Army Japan, Q Army Korea, Q Army New Zealand, Q Army, they're all over the world because they know if we win, it's systemic. It'll go, it's like dominoes falling.
Oh, and we will win.
Let's
be clear. And, the other thing too, that it's important to reinforce this, because the Q's posts last night were, boy, I tell you, they were pretty settling, and it shows the realness of the fight we're in. The important thing to remember is for digital soldiers to keep in their lane, meaning, this is a military term, but our role is information. Right. Our role is to overwhelm the matrix with truth. And it's important to remember that. I know that there's a lot of people out here that are like, man, I'm ready to just take it up on myself. If that was ever to happen, you would know, but it's not. We're not there. We're not even close yet. That's hard to understand because there's so much frustration.
Yeah, and there's so much deep state. It's embedded all the way down into your city.
Right. And you imagine if Patriots, as was envisioned by some in 2015, 2016, near the end of Obama, we're taking the country back. Man, it wouldn't have lasted a week. Right. They would have you've been erased, because they had so much depth in the key positions in society.
Great point.
Yeah. Hey, right? Scott, real quick, let's do this. 4543 goes exactly with what we're talking about. Loyalists critical. A counterattack to the first law and order strike, prepared and ready in an effort to change the narrative, prevent blind mass public awareness regarding coordinated effort to remove a sitting president of the United States, covertly disrupt the chain of command, regional comm as needed. Media plans to disregard regarding label as political attack, AG election interference, and inject script. Some commanding officers and executive orders may provide class through 1 through 99 that do not reflect those 1 through 99 of the POTUS or the AG of the United States. That's Bill Barr, guys, right? Appropriate action should be taken. Remember your oath. Remember your mission. Infiltration, not invasion. Defend and protect at all costs. Q.
That's awesome. Hey, I just want to highlight something, and for everybody to think about this now. Every time Q says, remember your oath, that's no longer some Q team special operations group, whatever that is. That's everybody that's taken the oath. All right. Yes, everybody. So if you haven't taken the oath, I'd encourage you to. You're taking an oath. So let's just get this out. This is how I see it. You're taking an oath to God, and you're taking an oath for the country. Okay, that's how I see it. And if those that have conflict with that, because I've had some comments about never take an oath, we're in a spiritual war. Okay, this is real. We're in a spiritual war, and we're in a war for humanity. So let's nail it. Get your head in the game. This is really a time that when Q's saying remember your oath, he's speaking to every digital soldier out there. So
hey, Scott, real quick, let me just play this for you. Watch this. This was live on our show. Shady, new Q too. Every meme counts. That's very good advice, Shady. I did point it out today as well. But let's do this. I want you to read this Q post, Shady. 4510.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of which I am about to enter. So help me God. Where we go one, we go all. Take the oath. Mission forward. Q.
And that oath was for all of us, Shady, just now.
I think we all just took the oath, Matrixx.
Everybody press 17 if you just took that oath and do solemnly swear to protect and defend this Constitution.
A 17 signifies acceptance.
Yes, let's do this. Q, we are with you. We are here. We know we've been chosen. All of us here. All of the beautiful digital soldiers.
Look at those 17s. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that happened live on our show, too, when we got to say, God bless you all. So it's really cool. It seems, Q seems to have post around the 1 o'clock time frame, Scott, and we're very honored and humbled.
That's awesome. Guys, it's real cool, too, is when I look at how much impact, I was explaining this to somebody the other day, is that to understand the Q movement is to realize how many different accounts are having huge impact. right? So like all this is, here's one example. And you go like, there's 24,000 views on my podcast for The Oath. And then you go somewhere else and you find the same. I mean, there's a ton of people out here, right?
Yeah, there are.
And there's the digital soldiers are such an amazing following, and such an amazing, that's not the right term. It's such an amazing army is what, and there's so much commitment and respect for one another. You know, and on my account, I think you get the normal bots and you get a few trolls, but I cannot believe that literally I probably have only had to block about 15. I mean, that's pretty incredible when you look at the volume of people you get on your accounts and the great comments that come in. It's really amazing. And it's such a statement to the depth of values and truly the faith that we all share in this digital army. And that's what our ultimate strength is. We're standing here with God, with country, with one another. And we are literally saying, okay, look, we're different. We come from different backgrounds. We're a whole big melting pot, but there's one thing we are the same. We are American.
Boom. Boom.
We are all Americans. And if we don't
finally got our voice too, Shady, right?
We have to speak for her. America is not going to speak. The people have to speak for her. That is the brilliance of this. If America is speaking, then you are in a tyrannical system right now. Governors telling you to wear masks and telling you can't gather and you can't go to church. Okay, that is the established order speaking. America has to speak for America, guys. We have to stand up together.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just it. And this is a time we've seen the greatest surge of patriotism. We see such a pride returning to the country. We're seeing the people that are witnessing this, even on the left, to say, look, this isn't what I signed up for. And they're looking over. I posted one last night on my account of a guy who was a liberal, and he's like, look, I'm voting for Trump because I didn't ask for this. I didn't want my history torn down. I've looked at the president from a different angle, and I'm like, he's doing what needs to be done. So we're seeing awakening, but where our commitment has to be in this fight, and we've said this a number of times today, and it just has to be reinforced, is every single day when you get up, your goal should be to press for truth in something you do. And I don't care whether that's dropping one meme, 5,000 memes, writing something on your Twitter feed, meeting somebody in the town square and shaking their hand and telling them something. We've got to move across our communities, and we have to embrace truth all the time and do that with respect and with the commitment we have in our faith in God.
And you, Scott, well said. And I've always said that the truth, there's nothing new under the sun. The truth has always been there, folks. The problem is that they've disaligned ourselves to the truth. So what we've got to do is realign our consciousnesses to the truth. And if it's the truth, whether I like it or not. And that's if I can prove it, it's the truth. The truth is the truth, whether we like it or not. There's a lot of truths that I don't really like, but it's the truth.
Truth is hard. And truth is
belligerent.
It is belligerent. You have to, when you get it, it's well, it is, it strips away the protections that we have. We want to often excuse things, and we want to kind of make things easier for people. And I'm just not like that. I mean, I think some of that comes from some of the communities that I've worked around in the special operations area. There's no feelings to get hurt. It's just honesty, and you've got to be brutal. You got to be able to say, look, this, and that's what this war brings to people.
Well, that's true. And what you just said right there is so very important, because people don't realize that being offended is their choice.
That's well said.
It's like everybody, it's like I like to say over and over again, it's like no one can offend you without your own personal permission.
That's right. And the truth is learned, never told.
There's the other one. And so how about if we kind of close here, guys, if that's okay? I don't know how your show.
Yeah, we're good. And I want you to watch a song, and then if you would stay on just for a couple seconds till the end, I would like to just quickly talk to you one more time.
Yeah, so hang on. So what I wanted to add to that truth thing is, remember that this process of the awakening is about learning. It's not about being told. It's so important. It's when, and we see this, I'm sure you guys see it as well on your feeds, that people will say, well, I need the answer. And it's like, no, it's up to you to find that answer. If we're giving you something, it's not that we're not like on Twitter. I'm not going to give you my 16 hours of research that I did yesterday that led to these key targets. If you want to know that whole thread, dig in, man. That's what this is, because that ultimately is what's opening us up to being awakened and aware of what the world is about.
Absolutely. Very well said, sir. Wow. Scott Kesterson, Bards of War, bardsofwarfilm.com, at BardsFM on Twitter. Get over to his YouTube. I want to play this song, and this is a song that's kind of special because this is JT Wild. And he's like, oh, I don't think this song is done, but it morphed into a totally rockin' song. But I want to play the original for you, and here it is, JT Wild, The Field of Fight, dedication to Michael Flynn.
Goes out to General Flynn, the Q Army, and everybody that's donated to the Mike Flynn Defense Fund. Bought the book Field of Fight. This is called Field of Fight. Looking across the desert, stone, dust, and blood, praying for an answer to the good Lord up above. How can just one man be the shelter from the storm, knowing that the real war is only just begun? Well, he's a soldier with a heart of stone. He dreams of finally coming home. A warrior with an eagle's might. He runs across the desert night and he lays his own body down in this field of fight. Fall without a question will be redeemed. Their sacrifice will not be in vain. 'Cause the man that left them strong, he still remains. Tell his soldier story, make it right again. Well, he's a soldier with a heart of stone, dreams of finally coming home. Warrior with an eagle's might. He runs across the desert night and he lays his own body down on this field of fight. Yeah, this field of fight. And after 33 years of kicking, gnashing, taking flames, he's looking at a country that he helped save. He's a soldier with a heart of gold. Now he's finally coming home. A hero with a general's might. He surfs across the ocean night and he laid his own body down on that field of fight. The field of fight, yeah. Yeah, we all lay our bodies down on this field of fight.
Where we go one, we go all. JT Wild. Much love, brother. There it is. There it is.
That's an awesome song.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And JT Wild's album goes live, and this is the song that it became right here. I won't play it all, but it's Digital Soldiers is what it became. And let me just hear the beginning. I'll show you the beginning. Here we go.
This was irregular warfare at its finest. We have an army of digital soldiers.
This is what it became, Scott. So we'll just kind of lower that a little bit. But what do you think of that?
It's just awesome. I'll tell you.
So he's got an album coming out July 4th. Guys, jtwild.com. That's jtwild with an E.com. Shady is actually heading out to Mount Rushmore. We're going to take a little bit of time off, and we'll be back after the 4th of July. Shady, quick closing comments?
Yes, I'd just really like to say I so appreciate Scott taking the time out today to come over here and hang with us and give us his insights and a little bit of the backstory of some of the things that have went on with him and how he's came to this fight and been such a strong man. You've been such a strong warrior for all of us to kind of look to for guidance and thought forms and everything. So I really just appreciate you coming on, my friend. It's amazing. I hope you come on more, and we should maybe start doing it even often if we want to. And
guys, this is awesome, and I'll tell you, if you want to make it often, you let me know. I'm totally open. I love I love your format, and I love your show, and we've just had such a great conversation here today. We have so much to discuss as we go forward, and so much important information to put in context for people. I think that's our biggest service right now as we build unity with people, continue to strengthen our faith, and really help people understand this big picture of this mega monster that we're trying to do the David and Goliath thing with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody else out there, I will be with JT. Like, we are going to be meeting up in Mount Rushmore. So if you are out there near the Red Pill Roadshow event near Sturgis, we're going to be there all day on Thursday. So is it Thursday or Friday?
RedPillRoadshow.com.
Yeah, I think it's Friday. So we're going to be out there all day, guys, with the fireworks and the Trinitrons at the campground. I think Zoltan's going to be there. And so hope to meet a bunch of you and get some hugs. I'm not going to be afraid to hug you.
Right on, guys. Thank you very much, Scott, for the show. Stay there. I want to just wrap up with you. And guys, can you hear me?
Boom.